Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the final leg of George Jerjian's remarkable journey around the world in 80 days. Whether you've been with us since the start or are just tuning in, we're very glad to have you. Thank you. So over the past few weeks, we've journeyed with George through South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and last week we're in Japan, each destination offering a unique insights and into purpose, resilience, and the art of reimagining life after work. For those of us joining us for the first time, I'll explain that George is a mindset mentor, a retirement coach and author dedicated to helping retirees and those approaching retirement to discover renewed purpose and passion. After a life-altering health scare at 52, don't worry, he's still with us, he developed the DARE method, guiding thousands to unretire and embrace exciting new chapters in their lives. And today, we are wrapping up the journey in Canada, or Canada, as my young son would say, a country that's known for its stillness, its space, its wonderful and charming people. It's the perfect setting to reflect on everything that George has discovered, I think, and really just kind of to discover where your own new beginning might start or look like. So, George, great to see you again.
Great to see you, Rupert.
You're my favourite unretiree. So over the past few weeks, you've taken us on quite a journey. In Japan last week, you ate horse sashimi, I think it's called pronounced, and
That's
trained
right.
with the grandfather samurai. In New Zealand, you swam with not one, but 200 dolphins. Did you actually count all of them? Was it really 200?
No, it's just
Anyway,
a guesstimate.
Okay, a guesstimate, fine. It's probably more. It's probably bigly more. And in Australia, of course, there was the unforgettable Oz Secco. And before that, you were in South Africa, getting up close and dangerous with lions and elephants. So now you're in Canada. What's in store for the grand finale?
Well, before reaching Canada, I on my travels out of Japan, I crossed the international date line.
Okay.
And because we were going eastwards, I gained a day. So it was kind of like a Groundhog Day. I relived a Saturday for the first time in my life.
Fantastic.
And
So when you actually got over I mean, presumably there is a fixed point in the world where this date line is. Did they kind of say, ladies and gentlemen, it's your captain speaking, we are just about to go over the international date line?
no, I think that the captain was asleep. He didn't mention it.
Okay.
No, he didn't mention it, but I was aware of it. So I was kind of waiting. And by the time we landed, of course, it was still Saturday, midday. So I lost, 6 hours. But in any event, I took full advantage of that one day and slept as much as I could.
Fabulous. So tell me, why Canada? Why not go across the States instead?
Okay. One of the, if you recall, one of the things that I'd mentioned was when I was planning this trip was I wanted to go to countries I'd never been to before. Now, the US, I've been to so many places in the US that it was disqualified.
You lived there for a while, didn't you?
I lived there for 8 years, yes, and I traveled extensively. So the US would not have been, it didn't qualify. Canada technically shouldn't have qualified because I've been to Toronto many times, but nowhere else. So I said, no, I want to see Canada properly. And that's why I chose Canada, because I obviously had to cross the massive American territory. What I could have done is perhaps gone to South America, but I hadn't seen Canada properly. So I wanted to make sure I traveled there.
Right. Yes, and I think it's a fabulous country anyway. So you flew from Japan, from Tokyo, across the date line and into Vancouver. Right. Okay. And could you have gone somewhere else? Could you have landed somewhere else in Canada?
I'm not sure, possibly, but Vancouver was kind of like the most natural place to go in Western Canada. Right. And I suspect I could have gone to Calgary. I'm sure there are flights from Tokyo to Calgary, but I went to Vancouver because I wanted to see Vancouver. I'd heard so much about it. It's lush, verdant area in British Columbia. And I could have done more there. I wanted to see Native American tribes and stuff. I never got around to doing that. I missed a couple of things, but essentially, in Vancouver, I went to Stanley Park, which is it's one of the largest city parks in the world, and it's larger than any park in London, except for Richmond Park, which isn't in London. So, Richmond Park is double the size, but it's not in London. So but it's a huge place.
Right.
And it's got a rainforest in the middle of it as well. So I did 3 hours of cycling in nature in Vancouver, and that was wonderful. And as you can see there, the totem poles, 200-year-old trees. It was just magnificent.
How fabulous. And so how long were you in Vancouver for?
2-3 days tops.
Okay. And would you recommend 2 or 3 days tops, or would you say no, this needs a week, or it needs 3 weeks, or it needs only 24 hours?
Well, Vancouver's like any other city. There's only so much you can do. I mean, there's lots of things you can do, but I didn't want to stay in a city. I wanted to go out, and I think British Columbia would have been parts of northern British Columbia would have been wonderful to see, but with 80 days, I was limited. So yes, there are lots of other things to do, but what I managed to do was get a mail run. It was a flight to Salt Spring Island.
Right.
Now, around Vancouver, there are about 300 islands, and there's only 12 that are inhabited. So I went to this one inhabited island called Salt Spring Island, and I took one of these. I think they're kind of water planes. They've got the skis on, and they're small planes.
So a 9-seater or something like that.
Yes, that's right. With the wings above the fuselage, and it's a single engine plane, so it's really quite beautiful flying over these islands. So that was exciting. That was very exciting. And
that was a mail run, did you say?
They call it a mail run because that's how the post used to travel to the people in these islands. And the interesting thing is that some of these inhabited islands near Vancouver is where a lot of people reside, and they fly in, they commute on a 30-minute flight into Vancouver City, literally into the harbor, and you're off to your meetings. How amazing is that?
I think that's rather cool, actually.
It is cool.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you're in Vancouver for what, 3 days or so? Stanley Park, mail run, lots of things to do there. Then presumably you had to get across Canada somehow. What was your first vehicle, as it were?
Railways. Again, I think Canada is such an enormous place. I mean, you could travel by car, but time would be the issue. But I took one of these Canadian trains that sleeper trains, high quality, really nice, but they're all air conditioned and sealed, so you're not getting any fresh air. Every stop you want to get out and take some breath. But my first stop on that train was Jasper, Alberta. But this train goes on all the way through Canada, all the way through to Toronto. And it takes 4 or 5 days. But I got off after a day and a bit, and it was a wonderful service on the train. Sort of cloth, silverware, crystal glasses. It's all sort of, the only thing missing was Hercule Poirot. But it was I
can't believe that it was as old as the Orient Express.
No, not quite. Not quite. No, but it was still, the good thing, of course, is that you can see in the photograph it had glass tops, so you could
like an observer car. Yeah.
Observation deck, and it was nice. It was quite beautiful. It was a lovely experience. And
just in terms of geography, so Jasper is sort of northeast of Vancouver. Yes. Is that right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going into Alberta, and this is where the most beautiful part of Canada is, I think. But it's also where the oil and all that stuff is, interestingly enough. And it sort of makes you wonder, are we going to lose all this beauty, all this natural beauty at some point? But I'm glad I saw it. It's the base of the Canadian Rockies. Okay. And it's so stupendously beautiful. I mean, the word awe comes into the equation. And in the true sense of the word awe. And one of the things about awe is that in my business of teaching people to move, to transition, is that awe is a catalyst. It triggers dopamine in your head. It releases this thing which brings this sense of joy and expansion. And when you want to be thinking about what am I going to do for the rest of my life, this is the kind of scenes you need to be in that allows the juices to flow inside you to be creative, to think about things like that. So for me, it was, I could not get enough of this natural beauty.
Right. And so in terms of the sort of time that it took you to get, so I'm obsessed with practicalities here. From Vancouver to Jasper, how long did that take?
A day and a bit.
Okay.
I left in the afternoon and I arrived. Actually, it was a whole day, 24 hours with delays.
Okay. And you stayed in the national park there?
I stayed in a hotel in Jasper, and Jasper's not a big place, but everything around it is huge. I took a sky tram to go all the way up to the top of a mountain, which had this sort of panoramic view of Jasper and everything around it. And it was effectively buttressed by these massive mountains with snow everywhere.
Right.
And these forests and lakes and rivers. And it's just gorgeous.
Yeah. Now, I appreciate that you may not necessarily be a train kind of person. Like, I've got that from our conversations previously.
Right.
But some of our viewers might actually be train kind of people.
Right.
Can you do the whole of Canada by train? Can you cross Canada by train?
Oh, yes. I think you can, not just, I think the Canadian, it's called the Canadian, and it travels all the way from Vancouver through to Jasper, Winnipeg, I think it's Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and it just goes all the way through to Toronto. Toronto's the final stop. It doesn't go to Montreal, but there are trains from Toronto to Montreal, so effectively you could. In fact, sorry, go on.
And presumably it goes across the top of Lake Superior and down sort of Lake Huron towards Toronto. Is that right? Yeah,
yes,
of course it would be because that's all Canada.
Right, exactly. So yeah, but the interesting, talking about trains, one of the interesting things about the trains in Canada is that when I was traveling on that train at night, we would stop on a second track to allow cargo trains to pass by. And when I talk to you about cargo trains, these are cargo trains that I've never seen before. They are 200 cars of 40-foot containers with an engine in the front, in the middle, and the back.
Wow.
And they're 5 miles long.
Okay. So that must take quite a long time to get past you while you're tucked up in your cabin trying to get some sleep.
Right. And these things pass and you think, oh, heavenly, peace now. And a couple of minutes later, there's another one behind it. It is humongous. And you wonder, are these trains feeding Canada east to west, or are they supplying material and foods and whatever for the United States as well? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
The enormity of the country and the enormity of the economy and trade that goes on is baffling.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you were in Jasper. You stopped your train travel at that stage. What was the next stop, and how did you get there?
Right. I spent 2-3 days in Jasper. Cycling, walking, doing all sorts of things in nature. And then from there, I traveled to Lake Louise.
Okay.
And to travel to Lake Louise, I had to go on the I-93, which is called the Icefields Parkway. And I believe the National Geographic magazine calls it the most spectacular roadway on the planet, because it's just incredible mountain views, forests, lakes, sort of ice blue lakes and ice blue running waters and rivers. It's staggering. The beauty is just so overwhelming. I'm sorry I'm gushing, because I was gushing to the extent that the 3-hour journey on a coach felt like 15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So from there, from Lake Louise, not a lot to do in Lake Louise other than just walk around and enjoy nature. But the waters in Lake Louise were changing between emerald and aquamarine. So your eyes were kind of feasting on this stuff. And of course, talking about feasting, I always like good food. So I stayed at the Lake Louise Fairmont Hotel, where I enjoyed proper English tea with sandwiches and everything else. But I got to tell you, they don't beat London's teas, but that's just a side note. But it was nice. It was great, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, that was Lake Louise.
Okay. And then on to where? Where next?
And I took a coach to Calgary to catch a flight, because Canada is so enormous. I took a flight from Calgary, which was a 3-hour drive from Lake Louise, to take a 5-hour Air Canada flight to Montreal.
Okay.
So man, that's almost a flight from New York to London.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at it on a map here, and it's massive. Massive.
It is huge. And so that was a 5-hour plane flight to Montreal, then got a connecting flight to go to Quebec City, which was my penultimate destination. I wanted Quebec City because I wanted to see the Quebecois and the French Canadian flavor. And I was deliberately avoiding Toronto because I had been to Toronto before. And Quebec was quite magical.
Right.
The history, the city itself, the citadel, is the reason the French and the British fought for it is because it was really whoever controlled Quebec City controlled America, because of the rivers going all the way to Michigan and the lakes. Yes. So the St. Lawrence River flows down to Quebec, and it really was the controlling place. And the citadel was impregnable, or almost impregnable. So the British fought for it, and it took 3 attempts for them to get it. Then the Americans tried twice, once in 1776, again in 1812 when Britain was at war with Napoleon, and they're trying one more time. History repeats itself. The last time, though, of course, the British punished the Americans by burning down the White House and Congress. Yes. I'm not sure they can do that this time, but let's see how it all pans out.
Yeah, I'm not going to lay any bets on that one.
No, quite.
Yeah, and also I'm sure that that the former governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, who's now the Prime Minister of Canada, will be able to repel the borders, let's say.
Well, he's doing all the right things, it seems.
Could be. Excellent. Yeah. And so how long did you stay in Quebec? Because I mean, it sounds, I mean, that sounds like a real destination.
Yes, I mean, it was great. I traveled not just in Quebec itself, Quebec City, but around the countryside. It quite beautiful, great history, and incredibly good food. Right. And it's the one city that you could say in North America that is very European. Very European.
Yes. So
you could mistake yourself being in Nice, France, for example.
Right. So very, very much French food.
Yes.
Wonderful. And where did you stay in Quebec City?
I stayed in Le Manoir Victoria, which is right in the center, and it was, you know, I believe it was a 5-star, but it was nice. It was good.
Right, fabulous. And so you were there for, again, remind me how long for?
3 days.
3 days. Okay.
And
and is it worthy of a return in your mind? More than 3 days, 5 days, 10 days?
I'm not sure I would return to a lot of the places I've already been, because there is so much more to explore. The world is a huge place, and there is so much other new places to visit that I think it would be challenging for me to go back to the same places, bar perhaps safaris.
Okay. I'm getting the picture that you like new things, George. You like to go to new places.
I do, very much so.
Okay.
So this is probably the last place that I ended up, because I was looking for somewhere which was peaceful, so I could recollect and it almost feels like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator. I was trying to get all my pieces back into one, and I needed somewhere quiet that I could journal and download material for myself and put things together. And I chose Lake Memphremagog, which is a lake that borders, well, it covers both the United States and Canada. Quebec, very far north, probably further north than Maine even. And it borders on the state of Vermont, but most of the lake is in Canada. And at the very top of that lake is a Benedictine monastery, a beautiful Benedictine monastery. I always choose Benedictine monasteries when I go to write and to edit my material, because of you go into a time warp, and I need that to be able to do my work. So I thought I'd go there. Unfortunately, they didn't have a place, because they had a community of 50 people there in a conference. So I wasn't able to go there. So I had to go to an Airbnb nearby, which was a beautiful Airbnb, idyllic, quiet, beautiful gardens, and I was able to put my journal together. And I spent 3 days there.
Okay.
And on my last day, before going to the airport, I went to a spa, a manoir, which was also a spa. I'm trying to remember the name now. In any event, I went for a massage. I needed a full body massage before coming back to London, and a final meal to set me off. And so I stayed at this wonderful manoir in Quebec State.
Wow.
Province.
Yep.
And so, as you can see on there, you can see the monastery of Saint Benoit sur le Lac, and wonderful countryside, beautiful countryside, great lake, and then drove back to Montreal Airport, dropped my car.
Yeah.
And
so you'd hired a car when you were in Quebec, yes?
I hired a car. No, not when I was in Quebec. When I went from Quebec to Montreal by train, picked up a car rental,
okay,
and went straight to Memphremagog, which is about 2.5, 3 hours drive.
Okay.
So I needed the car when I was out there in the province of Quebec.
Right. Okay. And so, in terms of because we've now got some questions from the audience. I appreciate you haven't yet got on your flight home, but before you got on your flight home, did you manage to catch the Northern Lights at all in Canada?
No,
Oh,
I wasn't far enough north.
Right. So where do you think you might have gone to if you had a little bit of extra time? Are there other places you would have gone to?
Yes, in fact, I wrote those down, because one is called the Cabot Trail in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. I was desperately trying to get time to go to Prince Edward Island Nova Scotia and Labrador, that area, and have 3 days there. And my travel agents really struggled because of transport to get there. It would have taken me that amount of time to get there, and it would have been challenging in the time that I had left.
Yeah.
So it would have the Cabot Trail in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia would have been one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one would have been Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, where the Confederation or Dominion of Canada was born on the 1st of July, 1867. So there was kind of a historical thing, and seeing actually Prince Edward Island, which actually also happens to be a tax-free island of some sort. So I thought, why not investigate? But so that was one of the reasons I thought it'd be good to go there. But
you're making far too much money from your royalties if you're worrying about going to live on tax-free islands.
Oh God! No, you don't make money on books. I'm sorry, Rupert.
Let's try and change that, shall we? Let's try and change that today.
Let's hope so. Yes.
So, talking of books, you've got your Odyssey of an Elder coming out.
Right.
You've got your Dare. You've got another book as well. So, is there some sort of offer you might be able to provide us with today?
Yes, I'm offering Odyssey of an Elder, which is actually launching on the 8th of July on Amazon. I'm offering it to Caxton audiences for a 25% discount plus 3 bonuses. And if you go to my website, Jerjian.com, it'll be there right up top, Odyssey of an Elder. Press that, fill in the form with your address and everything else. And the official price is $19.99 or something, but you'll be getting it for just under $15, $14.
We've already made you a multimillionaire this morning or this afternoon. So that's fabulous. So back to the trip. Trip. You then exited via which airport?
Montreal.
Cracking. Okay. So out of all of the cities that you went to in Canada, which was the cultural capital, would you say?
That's a hard one, but I think if I'm going to bet on it, it would probably be Quebec City.
Right. Okay. So culture, head for Quebec. Cracking. Okay. So you boarded your flight?
Yes. And
which airline were you traveling with again?
British Airways. I was on the round the world trip, which was I think it's One World Alliance. So it's British Airways, Qantas, Japan Airlines, and British Airways, obviously. So I took British Airways from Montreal back to London.
Okay. And final question: did you do it in absolutely 80 days?
81, because I gained a day crossing the international date line, which is what the Around the World in 80 Days book was all about. That one day across the date line. Yes, 81 days.
81 days. Fabulous. Well, just a final thought, obviously, on finances.
Yes.
Oh, hello. There we go. It's remarkable that the slide comes up just as I mentioned finances. What's the best way for traveling around the world in 80 days from a financial perspective?
I would say you don't want any debts, so don't take a credit card, take a debit card. Okay. And the best debit card, in my experience, is Caxton.
Oh. And
I say that in all truthfulness because I also have a Revolut card, which is not as seamless as Caxton when it comes to not just exchanging currencies, but also working through the actual app. It's so much easier with Caxton. The currencies are clear, moving money around is easy. I'm not a techie, so it's very intuitive, and that's what I enjoyed about it. And I pretty much used Caxton across every country that I went to.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much for trusting us on your fantastic Odyssey. around the world. So unless we have any last questions, I think that's about it. We're going to wrap it up now. But George, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear about your journey. It's been a delight to be talking to you over these weeks. And I think we should be doing this again. What you're going to have to do is to go round the other way or something, maybe top to bottom.
Well, I'm happy to try anything new. I just wanted to say that just on a final note, that it would be wonderful if my phone system, was like Caxton. If I could actually sort of, work around a mobile phone that was available, that could give me the service I needed across the world.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we are in a matter of days launching an eSIM which can go into your mobile phone, and it is a global eSIM which will enable you basically to make to have connectivity and to make phone calls from one SIM, rather than having to go and buy different SIMs from different operators and mess around with it. Because as you say, technology is getting a lot more complicated. And we at Caxton try to make it a lot simpler. So yes, watch out for the eSIM that we will be offering in the next few days or so. But George, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Rupert. Appreciate it.
Yep. And thank you all to the audience as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.